The Masked Marvel Mystery. The murder of David Bacon. This will be an old Hollywood true crime mystery from its golden age. But was it really golden back then? Is it now? The Masked Marvel was a fictional comic book superhero, though his superpowers paled in comparison to those of Superman and Batman's. But he did have a ray gun and something called a televisor, which was a video device that allowed him to view scenes from anywhere in the world. So basically a VCR player? Despite being called the Masked Marvel, he was not created by Marvel Comics, but instead by Centaur Publications. In 1939, Centaur Publications went out of business 3 years later. Coincidence? Luckily for the Masked Marvel fans, or fan, the superhero would live on, briefly, in the Republic Pictures film serials called The Masked Marvel in 1943. The film starred a few actors, including David Bacon, who played the Masked Marvel, or at least it was revealed in the final film installment that his character was the Masked Marvel all along. I'm sure a stuntman was the real superhero. David Bacon was not Republic Pictures' first choice for the role, or the second, or the third choice. Before he was cast, 4 other actors were supposed to play the Masked Marvel, but one by one, they all wound up getting injured in unrelated accidents before shooting commenced. David Bacon survived the film, but only 2 weeks after wrapping on Masked Marvel, he would be dead, murdered. He was born in Barnstable, Massachusetts in 1914 as Gaspar Griswold Bacon Jr. His dad, Gaspar Griswold Bacon Sr., was the lieutenant governor of the state, and his grandfather, Robert Bacon, had been Teddy Roosevelt's Secretary of State. But young Gaspar sought fame and fortune, and after graduating Harvard, headed west to the bright lights of Hollywood in 1939, changing his name to David Bacon because Gaspar Griswold wouldn't bring home the bacon. There he was a struggling actor who struggled even further after he was arrested by the LAPD for sexually assaulting a 15-year-old paperboy. Bacon was given a suspended sentence on the condition that he leave California for at least 3 years. The justice system of the Wild West, I guess. He left and probably wished he'd waited to change his name after that incident. David Bacon returned to Hollywood in 1942, where he was discovered by aviator, film mogul, and toenail grower Howard Hughes, who was going to give him the role of Billy the Kid in one of his westerns, but instead leased him out to Republic Pictures so he could star as the Masked Marvel. Rumors have since circulated that Bacon and Howard Hughes were more than just actor and producer. Nevertheless, Bacon had married a 40-year-old Austrian cabaret singer named Greta Keller and lived in the Hollywood Hills in a mansion called Castle Hill on Magnolia Drive at Lookout Mountain. They had been married less than a year, and she was pregnant. David Bacon's next role was the lead in an upcoming film called The Phantom Lady, and he was excited for the future. But on the 13th of September 1943, Bacon wanted to go swimming at the Santa Monica beach. But Greta didn't think she could go because of her pregnancy. They had an argument, and he left in her car a small English Austin sedan. Witnesses would witness Greta's car driving erratically later that afternoon in what was then a rural area just outside of LA, near Venice Beach. It swerved violently off Washington Boulevard and crashed into a bean field. David Bacon stumbled out of the car wearing beach shorts and then collapsed, revealing stab wounds covering his back. One of the witnesses claimed that his last words were, "Please help me." Probably a lot of people's last words, I'd imagine. When it's my time to go, I'm gonna say something more ominous and cryptic, like, "The sky's leaking bananas." Anyway, David Bacon was dead, stabbed to death by person or persons unknown. Had the curse of the masked marvel caught up to him? Remember all those previous actors who were injured? And on the same film was an unrelated actor named Rod Bacon, and a couple of years later he died under very mysterious circumstances also. But back to the Beanfield car crash. The murder weapon was never found, but what was in the car was very curious. Bacon's shorts were dry, but with bits of sand, so he had been to the beach that day. He still had his wallet, so robbery probably wasn't the motive. A great deal of blood was found inside the car, as well as a bathrobe on the back seat and a camera on the passenger side. When the film was developed from that camera, there was only one photo of David Bacon naked on the beach, smiling at his killer, no doubt. The only fingerprints in the car were Bacon's. Strange, since it was his wife, Greta's car. And the bathrobe in the back seat had no stab marks in it, so he wasn't wearing it when he was murdered. Another more baffling clue was found, a navy blue sweater that one of the bystanders had taken from the car and placed under Bacon's head to comfort him in his dying moments. The sweater was 2 sizes too small for Bacon and had a few blonde hairs on it, which were not Bacon's color. The design was tracked down to a Venice Beach High School athletics team, but all sweaters were accounted for, so it couldn't be matched to anybody. A witness who had been filling up at the gas station thought he'd seen Bacon drive by with a man and a woman in the car shortly before the crash. Who knows what shortly means though? 5 minutes? An hour? When Bacon's wife Greta Keller was told of his murder, she went into shock and had a miscarriage. And after she was told Bacon probably went to Venice Beach instead of their usual Santa Monica, she said that was very out of the ordinary, since they only ever went to Santa Monica together. Police would find a diary in Bacon's bedroom, which he did not share with his wife. The bedroom, that is, as well as the diary. And the diary would not be shared with anyone, as it was written entirely in a secret code that remains uncoded to this day. So, like the masked marvel, it would seem David Bacon had a secret identity too. A key was also found. Greta indicated that she thought it was for an apartment that Bacon had rented recently. Police were able to confirm this. But then, inside the apartment was filled with women's clothes and effects. Had a mysterious woman been living there? Or perhaps Bacon had been preparing for his next role in The Phantom Lady by cross-dressing? With the incident with Howard Hughes and the assault on the paperboy and the 40-year-old wife who slept in a different bedroom, it would seem Bacon wore a mask, inside and out. The apartment was owned by Hollywood physician Chuck Hendricks, who recounted going to the apartment only 2 days before Bacon's murder to collect rent, only to find him there with an unidentified young man. This man did not say one word to Hendricks, but appeared to be very agitated, and the case has never been solved. So what do we know? Greta Keller, his wife, might have been the killer. Maybe she was jealous of who her husband was spending his spare time with, posing naked on beaches for, and driving into bean fields with. But she did seem genuinely shocked and sad at the news of his murder, even losing her baby over it. And it appears their marriage wasn't a traditional one. She was over 10 years older than him. They slept in separate bedrooms. So maybe she allowed him to have a private life that was a closed book to her. The secret code book in particular seems like a red herring. The people to look at were the ones in the car, the man and the woman seen driving with Bacon shortly before the accident. We must suppose that this was a business or personal affair that went sour, and the epicenter was that rented apartment. That's the most probable explanation to the cause of his murder. But what of the curse of the masked marvel? If one was to look into the bizarre injuries and deaths that befell the other actors of that serial, then Bacon's untimely death might be more sinister. I have a theory. Maybe, while swimming at the beach, he was killed by a swordfish. That would account for the stab wounds. Just a theory. Just a thought. Just a swordfish. I've done some research, and I think the bean field where he crashed and died in Venice is located on Washington Boulevard on the corner of Thatcher Avenue. The beans have long been spilled now. There's a Coast Cryo there, a cryotherapist's office. Would it be nice if they erected a statue of the masked marvel there? Probably, if it wasn't for the fact that he abused a paperboy. Maybe just build a statue of the Snoopy version of the masked marvel instead. Thanks for listening.